Hello everyone, welcome back to Major Hi-Fi. I'm Luke. Today we're going to be talking about Sennheiser's new CX Plus true wireless earbuds, and we're also going to be comparing them to their predecessor, the CX, just plain old. And I also figured we might as well compare them to the Momentum 2 true wireless because I knew that people would ask about it either way, and it's a very popular model, and it's one of the best models from Sennheiser, so might as well throw it in there. So yeah, we've got 3 true wireless earbuds right in front of us. I have listened to all of them quite extensively, and let's go on ahead and talk about how these compare in functionality and sound quality and all that fun stuff. Yeah, let's get into it. So to start off with some numbers, we've got the CX, which runs for $129, the CX Plus, which is $179, and then the Momentum 2, which is $299, so quite a step up over here. The Momentum and the CX Plus are both noise canceling. The CX is not noise canceling. These all have a charge time of 1.5 hours, but we get 7 hours of playtime on the Momentum 2, 8 hours on the CX Plus, and 9 hours on the CX. However, using the case, we can of course recharge these and extend their battery life. So with a fully charged case, you can get 28 hours of playtime for the Momentum 2, 24 hours from the CX Plus, and 27 hours from the CX. We also can do a quick charge of 15 minutes for 1 hour of playtime on the Momentum 2, 10 minutes for 1 hour of playtime on the CX Plus, and 10 minutes for 1.5 hours of playtime on the CX. Alright, so let me just really quickly talk about the looks of these. We're going to get a pretty similar look across the board, but some key differences. If I start out here with the CX original, we can see that it's got just, a typical black case, and we've got these square kind of backings going on the earbuds themselves, and a pretty molded, sort of smoothed out ear shape that you might not expect if you see the back of these. When I first saw these, I was like, how are these going to be comfortable? They're so kind of like squarish on the front, but they are quite natural and like ergonomic, or whatever you want to say, on the actual underbelly that goes in your ears. And like many other Sennheiser earbuds, we've got touch controls on the back here. Now the CX Plus looks just about the same, but it is a tad bit smaller. I'm not sure if the size difference is even going to be noticeable on camera. It is noticeable in person. I'll take out one of them right here. As you can see, they look almost identical to the CX original, but they are smaller. If I hold them in my hand, maybe you can tell that one is smaller. I'll do a side-by-side shot, but it's quite difficult to see. In fact, I'm being careful to not mix them up because they look basically the exact same. You will, however, notice this size difference when you put them in your ears. The CX Plus is significantly more comfortable than its predecessor. I definitely see why they made the size just that little bit smaller, because it makes a pretty big difference. Getting a truly comfortable sort of sealed fit on the CX Plus is a fair amount easier than it was on the originals. I never found the originals uncomfortable, but now that I have this newer version to compare them to, it definitely does sort of become apparent why they tried to downsize them a bit. It just feels like an easier earbud to get into the right place in your ear. In terms of the Momentum, these are going to be the biggest of the 3. They are going to be not quite as, petite in your ears. I don't find these uncomfortable by any means. They definitely take a little bit of getting used to, maybe because of the size. I have seen some people say that they feel like they are just too big and bulky. For me, I don't really see a problem. I feel like they stay in your ears at the end of the day and they don't fatigue them, but they do have a bit more heft going on in the back here. If you're not concerned about sound quality, you're purely looking for comfort, then maybe these are not the move, because there's definitely smaller Bluetooth earbuds out there. But if sound quality matters to you, as I'll get to later, it's definitely not a sacrifice for the bigger size of these. They don't feel obtrusive or just like gigantic or anything like that. It's just, there's a lot of competition out there. There's always going to be a smaller earbud, but I don't feel like the size of these is something unruly. It's just not the smallest one that exists. So those are the tech specs, but let's go on ahead and talk about the differences in sound between these. So Sennheiser is definitely a very reliable company. It's one of the best companies, I think, if you're looking for Bluetooth earbuds. They definitely have it down to a formula. And I've heard all of these individually prior to this. I hadn't heard them all side by side. Actually, I probably have before, but not in a while. So I know that they all sound good, but I was curious how they were going to stack up against one another. We've got quite a price jump here, going from $129 to $299. And then of course in the middle here we have a newer product, so I was curious how that would stack up to some of their older products too. So I guess that I'll just sort of start off here. We've got a very sort of just general, pretty balanced response from the CX. It's got a kind of warmed up, slightly flattened treble response, a pretty beefed up bass response, not a hugely like super bassy sound, and then a bit of a recessed mid-range. It's definitely got a kind of drier, more impactful sound to it. I wouldn't call it like the lightest, airiest sounding earbud I've ever used. But it definitely does still feel like well handled, nice and tight, and overall like it really is really accurate and articulate. I will say for an extra $50, which you get with the CX Plus, is a pretty impressive upgrade in sound. The CX Plus basically sounds like the CX, but well, I guess the name is quite fitting. It just feels like everything is increased, like plus. Everything felt extended, so the treble felt brighter, it felt shinier, it felt more intense, it felt snappier. The bass is a lot more beefed up, it's got a lot more sub presence from it, it's gonna have a lot more impact, a more cinematic sound to it. The mid-range is also pushed forward, so we're gonna get a bit more of a bite from percussion and things like that, a bit more vocal presence. It's overall just gonna have a fuller, kind of, I feel like more tailored, tighter response than the CX. I was actually surprised at what an upgrade the CX Plus was from the original CX. I had a feeling that they would tune it a little bit differently, but to me it really did feel like a big step up, and honestly more than a $50 upgrade in my opinion sound-wise. If you can swing the extra $50, I would say do it. It's not a redundant extra spend. If you can't afford the upgrade, I don't think you should be like super devastated. It's really not going to get you a bad headphone. I feel like the CX is still a really solid Bluetooth earbud, but Sennheiser definitely just kind of seems to one-up themselves with the CX Plus, but I feel like the baseline earbud, the CX, was already really good. For me, the CX Plus was just an improvement on something that was already really solid, so I felt like, once again, yeah, if you can get the best version, I would say go for it. And I do think this is a definite upgrade, but I don't think that it leaves the CX original just totally in the dust, as some upgrades do. It doesn't make it redundant or obsolete. I don't know if they're planning to phase it out for any reason, but I don't think they need to. I think it still serves its purpose as a more affordable option, and I think that it delivers really well for the price at the end of the day. But let's talk about the other end of the spectrum in terms of higher prices, which is the Momentum 2. So this runs for $299, of course, quite a bit of a jump up from both of these. I was surprised, first of all, at how similar it does sound to the CX Plus in terms of leveling. So its level and just overall sound are very similar to the CX. It's going to have a similar brightness, a similar heavy low end. It's going to have a sort of similar snappy mid-range that's got some subduing to it, but definitely not the way that the CX does. And it's going to have that heavier low end and the more shiny treble. However, I will say that it makes sense to me that this is more expensive, because to me what it felt like was kind of the same response I got from the CX was on the Momentum, but the Momentum seemed to execute it at a much higher level of precision. It just felt like a more tailored, well-handled, really just thought-out sound to me, whereas the CX Plus definitely tackles the challenge well. It doesn't have quite the level of just like tight grip and I guess kind of overall consistency that the Momentum does, where it's able to just really drive it home on any composition, any sort of genre and whatnot. The CX Plus kind of, can get a bit overwhelmed by certain things if they're too bassy. It doesn't know what to do with certain frequencies that are, really booming, really big, or things that are super intense on the high end. It sometimes gets a bit overwhelmed, whereas the Momentum 2 is able to sort of modulate things in a bit more of a particular kind of groomed way. So it makes sense to me that the Momentum 2 is the most expensive of these. It sounds clearly to me like the most expensive, but I will say if you can't afford it, the CX Plus is a really, really good alternative to it. It has quite a similar tuning, a similar overall sound. It just doesn't feel like it has quite the level of kind of expertise that the Momentum 2 has, but the fact that it even is able to kind of mimic it in certain ways and sound very close at certain times is impressive, because it is almost half the price. So I would say that it's a really, really great alternative to it. If you're not trying to shell out the cash, like $300 is not a small amount of money, then I don't think you're going to be making a mistake getting the CX Plus. It's a really impressive earbud for the price, and like I keep saying, it is impressively close to the Momentum 2, and it is definitely still a considerable upgrade from the original CX. So I feel like Sennheiser did a good job with the pricing of all of these. I am not insulted by the prices of any of them, and I don't feel like this is kind of trying to like lie to anybody. This feels like a very honest product lineup to me, and I'm quite pleased with that. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the CX Plus and some of its sort of sister headphones, whatever you want to call them. I definitely think that Sennheiser once again prevails as a really big brand in this market. There are just simply way too many Bluetooth wireless, earbuds out there. It's like one of those things that every tech company is trying to get their foot into. So it says something that Sennheiser remains popular when basically there's just endless competition. They've managed to reign for a pretty long time over the market. So I think the CX Plus definitely lives up to their standard. It will probably help them continue keeping that firm foot in this very competitive area of the sort of audio world. I'm very curious what other people think of the CX Plus in comparison to these two. If they feel like they agree with what I'm saying, I feel like many of you probably will. And yeah, let me know if you've heard them, if you have any thoughts, leave them in the comments and whatnot. If you have any videos you'd like to see from me in the future, comment that too, whatever you want to say. And yeah, I will also link to my written article about these three, of course, per usual. I will also link to Major Hi-Fi's True Wireless Ranking Tool, where you can compare these and basically any other wireless earbud on the market. I will be back very soon with some more videos and reviews and comparisons and all those types of things. And until next time, happy listening.